right, and we should be live. So we are here with Dr. Jeffrey Lewis from the Middlebury Institute of International Studies at Monterey, author of the 2020 Commission Report on the North Korean nuclear attacks against the United States. Hold on, that might sound like an official government paper on a thing that happened. It did not. That is a work of speculative fiction, just to be clear. I'm Rob Zacny. I'm here with Motherboard's Matthew Gault. And today we are going to be playing Defcon with an honest-to-God nuclear arms expert. Jeffrey, welcome to the show.
I am so excited to nuke the shit out of the two of you.
The issue is we're all going to get the shit nuked out of ourselves because I put in two computer players into this game. We're going to be playing Defcon. So if y'all are not familiar with Defcon, because it's an older game, it is an early Chris Delay game from Introversion Software, and it is one of the grimmest RTS games I think I've ever played. It was and also a really good one, and was kind of a cool surprise when it first came out. And it is basically the full game version of the game from the Matthew Broderick movie, War Games. This is literally Defcon is just the game from War Games, but you can play it, and it's maybe a little bit better of a game than the one in that movie. And the idea is that it just progresses along the Defcon chart as you go through an early positioning phase, setting up nuclear silos, which double as ballistic missile interceptor launch locations. You send out fleets and nuclear submarines, and then as the game escalates, all the sides begin launching nukes at each other. And basically, this is a game about absolutely killing as many people as possible, and theoretically having the fewest number of people killed yourself. But
2 points for every million people you kill, and then you lose a point for every million people you lose. I believe is the math, the Megadeth math.
Yeah, and I would say that the game's pretty clear. At no point, I think this is a game that kind of feels, by design, feels pretty miserable. This is a kind of lousy place to inhabit, and it's not like you'll be sitting there feeling like anybody really won. By the end of the game, usually things are pretty denuded. But I've already made a controversial decision. Having played with Gault, I know Gault and I are terrible. And Jeffrey, I know that you study this, but I have a suspicion you might not do much better than we did.
Oh, I got wasted by the computer when I played.
Yeah, so the two computers are in there just to give people an idea of what competent players would do, rather than people who just learn this stuff from the fancy books. And they're probably going to mop the floor with us. So, be under no misapprehensions about that. But it also seems appropriate because, 5 powers, UN Security Council, that all seems to make some kind of sense. So we will just go to it from there.
You gotta maintain that delicate balance of terror.
Hey, if you learn nothing else from this, the only thing you need to know about nuclear weapons is that no one wins a nuclear war. So it's going to be fine. I mean, it's going to be terrible.
It'll be bad. Gault, we need you to ready up.
I apologize. Right. I apologize. I didn't know we were waiting on me.
Oh, wait. Now, Jeffrey.
Nice.
All right, now we're all ready.
The other thing I love / hate about this game is that it doesn't stop.
However,
which I think is really engaging.
We can slow it down, which I just did.
Okay.
Yeah, I got to figure out where I am. Oh, I'm nuclear. Oh, I'm Russia!
Oh, and I'm Europe? God damn it.
Yeah,
Okay, so
now we're talking.
So
Now
I am
we're
East
talking.
Asia, I guess. I'm Indochina. So in this phase, we can put down radar installations, which people watching my stream will see me doing.
Oh, I'm totally putting down radar installations.
And those are key.
You think you're getting Kiev back? I don't think so.
Uh-oh. The dog has activated. And the radar installations are key because they lift fog of war.
Yeah.
Oh, this is going to be bad, though. So I'm already concerned because it can be really bad news when you are that close to somebody.
You think there's going to be good news in this game?
So I am just knowing from experience. So, Jeffrey, you're yellow. You're Russia.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I'm just trying to make sure I can see everything around my cities. I tried. You know, one thing I didn't love about the way the radars work in this game is they're circles, not fans. So it causes me to rethink my radar deployments compared to what I might do in real life. But hey, that's fine. It's good. I really don't like this idea that ICBMs can defend.
Yeah, I mean, so the biggest leap this game makes, right, is that anti-ballistic missile technology is basically flawless.
It's incredible.
This shit works just 100% of the time.
It's incredible.
You can really tell it's a game because the ICBM silos turn into your anti-missile defense at the same time.
So that's a funny thing. That's a thing the Russians are really worried about, is when we put the U.S., we actually reused ICBM silos for missile defense silos. And
therefore
Russians,
making it ambiguous.
Yeah, and the Russians really hate that ambiguity, and they pushed, for example, in the New START treaty with the United States, for that not to be a thing. So the New START treaty actually prohibits swapping them out, which is kind of interesting, I think.
So actually, this brings me to one of the things I wanted to talk about was, so I think for a lot of us who grew up, one of my earliest memories is basically the Berlin Wall coming down. And then it's kind of a hop, skip, and a jump from there until, the Soviet Union is, kind of collapsing. And but in the wake of that, one of the things that I never really identified with was that I understand, academically, that nuclear war was this imminent terror for people of my parents' generation. But it wasn't for me, not in that way. And to a degree, it seemed like a long ago threat. But also, critically, one of the things that I think you sometimes learn in freshman IR classes is that nuclear deterrence by some measures did prevent great power conflict. That it did prevent things from escalating beyond proxy war status. And so to a degree, we learned to love the bomb. And a lot of us, certainly I think there's a lot of complacency about this, that the threat of nuclear war has been steadily receding since the end of the Cold War. And I'm curious, Jeffrey, is that founded? Is that well-founded? Is that founded on anything real?
I mean, okay, so the first thing I would say is that idea of no great power war is true, right? We didn't have a giant competition, right? We didn't have a giant battle over Berlin again. But I know we call them proxy wars, but Jesus, it sucks if you're a proxy. So, there was an enormous amount of violence in the Cold War. So that's one thing. But I mean, the way I always look at it is, you're making this bargain, right? Where you're saying, look, we think we're going to reduce the deaths from force-on-force traditional war, but in exchange, oh Jesus,
Defcon 4.
Okay. All right, stop for a second, make sure I don't need to do anything. But if you've ever seen that,
some nice battleships you got up there protecting. It's an
Hey.
interesting choice.
Freedom isn't free, Matthew. So anyway, look. If you ever see this chart that Stratcom releases where they show like the number of deaths in war, which by the way, it's a total bullshit chart, like the data is approximately made up, but it shows that the number of deaths in war drops after World War II, which again, it's not true, but like whatever, they can make up their own data. I don't care. But if you were to like put on the bar graph of like what happens if it all goes wrong, that's a bad fucking day. So like, yeah, I mean it works. And it'll work until the day it doesn't work. And what you have to decide is that risk worth it? And it's probably worth it in the Cold War. And it's arguably worth it now. But like, you got to decide, do you want to do this for like 100 years or 500 years? And I'll level with you. I don't want to do it that long.
So what are the things that, so first of all, obviously I think for a long time, the closest people feel like the world got to nuclear war was the Cuban Missile Crisis. But we now understand there were actually closer calls than that, correct? Like, what is it, 83, the Able Archer exercise nearly sets off a Soviet nuclear launch that would have resulted in unlimited nuclear exchange, right? Like that's how close it came. And it didn't even register as a crisis. It wasn't like the Cuban Missile Crisis. This was a thing that we only learned about in retrospect.
And I would also toss in, like, how many of those strategic air command accidents that happened in the 50s and 60s do you factor into that too? Right? How many, there's nukes that we don't know where they are. They're gone.
Yeah, well, yeah. That's a whole other conversation. There's one still missing in the Savannah River, which is like just wild to me.
Yeah.
Able Archer in 83 is really interesting because to this day, there are people who deny there was any risk. And so it's one of those things that's heavily, heavily politicized. I personally find it pretty freaking terrifying. But it goes down to my friend Scott Sagan, who's a professor at Stanford, who deals a lot with false alarms, accidents, that kind of thing. For him, and I think this is right, it's like, what do you think of the close call? You can look at a close call where you narrowly avoid civilization-ending destruction and say, well, the safeguards worked. 4 of 5 failed, but number 5 worked, and, what are the odds? Or you can look at them as warnings, right? You can see in them a plausible route to things ending up in a place you don't want. And, like, at some level, that's a matter of temperament and perspective. Like, I have a really good friend, Bruno Tertre, in Paris, who tends to take the view that, close calls just show that you get close, but that the system always works. I tend to have more like Scott's view.
So we got into this talking about like anti-ballistic missile introducing ambiguity into the system as well. And this was one of the things that this was a defining policy conflict of the 2000s, right? Like it was really the Bush administration that Bush 2 that was really keen on this idea of building some kind of missile shield. Like early on, the knock against it, there were 2 real knocks against it. One was that it was impractical. The number of things that have to go perfectly right to intercept a ballistic missile is pretty impossible. That the margins of error that exist in these kind of complicated interactions pretty much always guarantee the system will have a high degree of fault. And 2, that even if it worked, it would actually be counterproductive because it would make the entire international system more volatile and it would make the trade-offs less clear. Can you talk us through like how just contemplating these technologies and researching and developing them ends up screwing the pooch?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things. I mean, one is that we should probably distinguish the kind of Iron Dome. Oh, someone's sobbing now in the game. Boy, it is dark.
Yeah.
We should probably distinguish the kind of stuff we're seeing with like Iron Dome, where that's like a pretty simple problem. The missiles are really short-range rockets. They're unguided. They're not really moving all that fast. They're launched from pretty close to you. your interceptors right where it needs to be, that kind of thing. Versus like what the U.S. wants to do, which is, we have a system in Alaska that's supposed to intercept ICBMs from North Korea or even China and protect the entire United States. And like that stuff is moving so fast. We're talking 7 kilometers a second, sometimes more. And so just technically it's really hard. And you see that in the test record. The test record on U.S. missile defense interceptors of the kind of designed to protect you against...
about 10 seconds before Defcon 3, when naval engagements become active.
Matt, there's no need to point that out.
No, I'm already queued up. I know exactly what I'm doing there.
Wait,
anyway,
what are you doing, Rob?
So we basically have like 3 fleets superimposed on each other.
Wait, it won't let me move my fleet.
Oh, there we go. It's on now, baby.
No, why wouldn't it let me move my fleet? Well, I don't like this. I got a problem. All right. Well, we're going to come back to this pressing problem of the crappy missile defense test record, but I got to figure out why I can't move my fleet.
So if you're right-click moves the entire fleet.
No, I can move it, but it gives me the bonk kind of noise. Like, this is not okay to move here. Huh.
Yeah, the game is it's finicky. It's a finicky game. I sent the wrong ships to the wrong places.
Well, I may be messing this up. I actually don't quite remember how to do the...
I think you might still be winning, to be entirely honest.
Yeah, because I think you're going to wipe out those fighters.
No, who's blue?
Blue is...
is that one of my AI friends?
Yeah. Wait, you've got friends? What were you making pacts
No, I didn't.
while we were talking about...
No, I'm just saying
This is
I
like
brought them into this
Molotov,
world.
Ribbentrop, but, computers. And... Wait a second.
Oh, boy, I don't know if that was a good move.
Why can I not attack you?
Who,
Am I
me?
allowed to attack?
So,
yeah,
I think
you
your
can-
fleets
you
are
can attack
fighting. I
with-
see shooting.
You can attack with boats right now.
Your
You
boats
can't
are
do-
100% shooting at me.
I'm
Yeah.
100% trying to attack you, and it doesn't seem to be happening.
You're... Who, me? You are definitely attacking me, for sure. You're
Me?
devastating a chunk of my navy, yeah.
I didn't. I think I'm just defending. I think you attacked me. Because I'm
Listen.
focused right now on trying to kill Rob here.
I was I was charting some what are traditionally European waters.
No,
A
no.
little north of
No, look how far
Leningrad.
north you are. No. Svalbard. That's Russian right there. Svalbard. No, you can't make this shit up. You
There's-
false territorial claims. No.
It's
No.
fine.
You and your
It's
peaceful gap shit. No fucking
Wait,
way. Sorry.
So my silos are still in air defense mode, and
Yeah,
so
they
my
can't-
silos
Yeah, because
are
missile defense
shooting.
works in this game.
They're shooting interceptors. Not only that, they're shooting interceptors at non-ballistic missiles. They are engaging missiles that your fighters are shooting, or maybe they're engaging. No, they're engaging aircraft. They're engaging aircraft.
Yeah, I love that. Wasn't there some... I feel like there was a news story like a year ago about... they're trying to outfit the F-35 with a hypersonic that was supposedly They could shoot a nuke out of the air, is what they were talking about.
Oh, I do remember that story.
Yeah. Which is not... Again,
That's goofy.
Yeah,
you
super goofy.
gotta be so close to that to do that you might if you're close enough to shoot it down when it's boosting, you're close enough to hit it on the ground.
Yeah.
So this is a couple.
I'm gonna
of,
stop lecturing and just focus on nuking the crap out of you. But anyway, go ahead. Sorry,
Yeah.
what?
You've got a while till Defcon 1, my friend.
I
Yeah,
know.
I'm not-
I gotta get rid of this naval fleet.
I'm not sure who's gonna like. It's just a chaotic melee at this point.
Yeah. The only way to win, Rob, is not to play.
Well, yeah, but you said we had to do this, and so now I'm watching this just utterly chaotic battle unfold in the South China Sea. So
Not
What-
prescient, I hope.
one of the things we talked about here at the start was this idea that some of the ambiguity that's introduced is the fact that a ballistic missile interceptor can look an awful lot like a ballistic missile. That, like, part of, and it gets even more complicated because you also alluded to just now the notion that it's a hell of a lot easier to catch these things. Basically, the closer you can get to, like, the moment they launch, and the earlier you can catch them, the easier this can get. But that begins to shift you, like, that seems like it would begin to shift you into an offensive posture, or a posture that would look offensive in terms of, like, trying to engage that aggressively.
Which I think has been Russia and America's take on things for the past 20, 30 years, right? Is that what the defensive stuff you're doing makes you look aggressive.
Right. There are two parts of that. There's, when you say you're putting defenses up, are those really offenses? But then there's this, like, deeper idea, which is, if your defense is not great, do you know when your defense works best? When you go on offense and hit most of their missiles, and then your defense has to just, like, mop up what's left over. So, like, I actually don't like the term missile defense. I prefer ABM, anti-ballistic missile, because defense offense, like, that's in the eye of the beholder. The idea of being able to shoot down missiles is inherently offensive, I would argue.
So
he says, waiting for these naval engagements to resolve
I'm going to
themselves.
say something I don't believe, but I want you to respond to the idiot's defense of this idea.
Yeah.
Which is that I am just a humble superpower with a limitless defense budget, and an industry that requires feeding, and I just want to keep my people safe from the threat of, say, I'm not even worried about responsible nuclear powers that we have a long-standing relationship with, like China and Russia. But you wrote a book, like, you know, the North Korean attack, like these rogue actors who, if they could just build one ballistic missile and fire it, to kill millions of U.S. citizens somewhere. That's all we want. The ability to prevent that from happening. Like Bilbo Baggins, why should I not have it?
Well, I mean, if you actually believed that, then what you would want is a system in which you had no offensive nuclear weapons and you had only these so-called defenses. But when you marry them together like a sword and a shield, right, you are giving yourself an incredibly potent offensive capability. So yeah, like, I get why it works, and that's why it's called the Missile Defense Agency, right? It's not called the Preemptive Strike Mop-Up Agency, although that's what it is. But as a practical matter, that's what the North Koreans and the Chinese and the Russians see. So, you know, when you say, like, these capabilities are defensive, that is only true if they are embodied in a defensive posture. When you add them to what is frankly a pretty offensive posture, and, you know, like, there are good reasons to be offensive. I think that maybe things favor the offense in this case. Then it's just a capability enhancement that gives you the ability to coerce. And, you know, it's not like when we have that leverage, I mean, we say these things are defensive, but we certainly also coerce. Right? Like, ask Saddam, ask Gaddafi.
Okay, we're at
Defcon 1.
2.
We got 9.5 minutes where I can actually nuke somebody?
Yeah, I'm losing the bulk of my navy to the blue player. It's bad. It's real bad. So where I always get to with this game is by the time I'm in Defcon 1, there's no reason to not just unleash nuclear Armageddon on everybody.
No, not
Absolutely
at all.
not.
Yeah.
The game's incentives, in fact, are set up to rack up as many megadeaths as you can as quickly as possible. And hopefully to knock out your opponent's nuclear missile silos, should you be able to see them, like the one that you've got right there on my border. Yeah, I see.
I think that's.
I see that silo.
I mean, I think that's life, though. right? Like the game favors. I mean, right? Offense tends to be favored. You'd rather go first than second.
Well, in nuclear deterrence especially, like the whole thing is kind of built around that to a degree, right? Or at least the logic that underpins it.
Well, hold on. I thought to a large degree this was also underpinned by Second Strike. This notion that that a nuclear attack without an equally catastrophic response is effectively impossible, and therefore that as much as the offense might be favored in that the missile always gets through or the bomber always gets through, there will also always be one coming the other way, that you probably can't win a nuclear conflict so decisively that the response doesn't get through. And for the sake of this argument, we're setting aside the massive environmental impact of even limited nuclear exchange, but this notion that there would always be a counterattack that would be unacceptably bloody for anyone contemplating a first strike.
Well, it depends on what you think unacceptable is, right? Like, I mean, one of the big fights it's actually the funniest moment in Doctor Strangelove is where George C. Scott's character says, I'm saying no more than 10 to 20 million killed, depending on the breaks. Right? And in his mind, 20 million is a victory. And that's actually the number that like Herman Kahn and Keith Payne today, like they talk about a victory in nuclear war as being if you can keep the number of dead under 20 million. So like if you think 10 million, you can put a W on the board, then that's one thing. I mean, I'm a hippie. I tend to think that like if we lose one city, if we lose, a COVID crisis of people, that's a freaking catastrophe. So yeah, like if you believe that losing one city is too much to pay for a foreign policy goal, then deterrence looks pretty stable. If you're like Keith Payne, and he wrote an article, I don't know if he still feels this way, in which he said, the defense of Western Europe was worth 20 million Americans. If we destroyed the Soviet Union and only lost 20 million Americans, he called that a victory. That was the word he used. So
that's a lot of people.
Yeah. It's your perspective. I think it's a little bit of a high price to pay, and that, maybe we should think about alternative approaches.
All right, I'm not asking you to call out coworkers or colleagues, but at the same time, I think if I was at a conference, for instance, and somebody was like, 20 million dead people, bargain. But yeah, I would like that. Like, it's funny because it's grotesque in Strangelove, but it is like, is that like an active and strong school of thought in the world of nuclear war theory?
So people don't say it out loud anymore. That article was from 1980, and I think Keith Payne has learned not to say that in public because it's not a super strong argument. But yeah, I mean, that is our policy, right? Our policy is to try to use our nuclear forces to limit the damage in the United States. And there will be people who say, well, we don't do damage limitation.
Well, then why are the ICBM silos where they are?
Like I say, there'll be people who say we don't. Yeah. So, I mean, yeah. I mean, the thing is all these approaches are stupid at like a deep and profound level, which I think is kind of the nice thing about the game. But, particularly with Americans, we feel this obligation to try to create these rational frameworks to justify the crazy shit we're going to do. And that's the framework, the idea that you're going to try to keep casualties down by going on the offense.
I think that's
so
really...
it's the whole idea of counterforce.
I think that's really telling that dichotomy between the face things are given, what we're actually talking about is really apparent in the way that the military, Stratcom, talks to itself and to the other branches about what it does. This is, Stratcom is a group of people in charge of these world-devastating nuclear weapons, and its motto is, peace is our profession. Right? That's on everything. And,
It's weird, right?
at every conference they go to, they trot out, like you said, their graph of how many people nuclear weapons have saved since the end of World War II. It's just wild.
Yeah.
So
Oh, go ahead.
no, sorry. I was just thinking about the, like... Because I, like Rob, I think, picked up so much of my parents' nuclear anxiety and processed it through pop culture.
Sure.
And the pop culture is just so different than... you get taught to be 90s kids got taught to be cynical really quick because of the glaring difference between how the government spoke and the way these things were portrayed in media.
Yeah. I
You
think
know?
that for me, that's Challenger.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I mean, think about Challenger. Are you younger than I am?
talking about
I
the
mean, we
shuttle?
spent
Yeah. Like, I think I was alive, but I was tiny.
Okay, so I was in
No
grade
memory of
school, and we spent 2 years. There's a competition. You're supposed to nominate your favorite teacher. We're going to pick the best teacher. We're going to put her in space. We're going to put it on live TV. And then they blow her to freaking smithereens. And, like, I am in 5th grade, and it's like,
You're
wait
watching
a
it,
second.
right? Everyone was watching.
Yeah, I was in a time zone where I recall seeing it, but I think we were going to watch it on tape delay because I think they came into our room and said, "Hi, so we know we were going to show you the space shuttle, but we're not going to do that because there was a problem." So, like, yeah, as a result of that, and maybe that's why I'm the cynical, suspicious bastard I am today, but like, when your government spends 2 years persuading you this is going to be the greatest thing on earth, and then they murder that person on live TV, it undermines your confidence in the powers that be.
My third grade teacher was extremely, like, she was a complete, like, space enthusiast, and, like, I remember one day she brought in the runner-up to that competition, the woman who was the runner-up to go on Challenger.
It's like Judy Resnick, right? Who got to go?
Pardon?
I think that's Judy Resnick. Didn't she eventually get to go?
I can't remember who it was.
No,
It must
no.
have been her.
Oh, no. Resnick was on it. God, what was her name? Yes, you're right.
But the point is, I'm in 3rd grade, and my teacher, by the way, I should point out my 3rd grade teacher, pretty terrible, like, for a variety of reasons, like, should not have been teaching kids. But this was another example of, like, why this was not a good idea. We're in 3rd grade, and it was like, hey, want to hear this person process their trauma over being there,
oh my God,
watching this happen live
do that?
with... Yeah, she just told us about, like, how crushing it was to not get on Challenger and how, like, pissed she was that she lost the competition, how heartbroken she wasn't going to get to go. And then she takes us through the whole day, whether it's the event, the launch, and she's there with the teacher's kids, and they're all watching it live. And, like, she's telling us all this as, like, 3rd graders. And she's like, yeah, I felt really bad about, like, resenting that woman, because I would have given anything to trade places with her. And I'm like, hi, I'm in 3rd grade. I'm 11.
I like rockets.
Yeah, it was like, I've never forgotten it. It was one of the grimmest fucking things I've ever heard. But
Defcon 1 is coming up, by the way.
All right, I think some
I
good
can't
things
move
are
my
happen.
ships. Are you able to move your ships?
Yeah, they're moving.
No, I can't move mine. It won't let me move any of them.
Right
I'm
click
just
to
having
move.
trouble. You're probably moving them somewhere they don't want to go. It could be. It's a finicky game.
Yeah.
Well, also
Alright,
they now have limited combat range. Like, I think they've like fought too much.
Yeah, they could only. Yeah.
I'm kind of curious how this is going to work out, because you notice green is completely off by themselves.
Yeah, I don't know what. God knows what they're doing.
Wait, can I not start bombing things? I thought it was Defcon 1.
Oh, you've got. It
Oh,
looks like you've got stuff in the queue in.
So things take a minute to launch. Like, the ICBMs don't just, like, blast their entire like payload at once.
No, I can't select my bomber mode. How do I select bomber mode?
Right click
again?
to go to bomber mode if you're, like, on
I
a
have a
carrier.
map.
Or...
There we go. All right, thank you. I feel bad that that's actually going to involve bomber launching against you, but I appreciate your technical assistance. It's extremely helpful for me.
No problem.
It's control click. There we go.
Oh man, this is gonna get real ugly.
Well, it depends what you think by what real ugly is.
I'm trying to make sure that Europe survives, sir.
Why would you do that?
Because I'm in charge of Europe.
Because Gault is embracing tradition. So let's see.
I feel like I'm missing a.
One of the conversations I've seen happen in like military, like arms policy long spaces, and I think like Kelsey Atherton is probably the person I see who's most outspoken about like.
Yeah, he's hilarious.
There should just not be nukes. Like if we really wanted to like play it safe, like there shouldn't be nukes in the system.
He's shit talking us on Twitter as we speak, by the way.
For the record, I cannot move my SSBNs. It says move fleet here. I hit it and it goes.
Well, like so, mine have been steaming around for a while, and they're like out of combat range. Like they're basically stalling.
And I haven't done it. They've never been able to move all game. I protest. I protest this travesty. I can't move my SSBNs. I have no naval capability. It's really pissing me off.
Where are your SSBNs?
They're stuck out in the goddamn Western Pacific.
Just out of curiosity, tell me the location of your nuclear fleet.
They can't get within range of anything, so I don't care if you come kill them. Yeah, it won't let me move them at all. That's very frustrating.
Do you have them on?
Oh, maybe I have to change their mode? They're in passive sonar mode. Do I have to change that? Is that the problem? MRBM launch. I change it to MRBM launch and then I can move them? That doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't. It's not letting me move mine either. That's interesting.
Yeah, it won't let me move my SSBNs. I think that's just a glitch. Hey, did my bombers do any damage yet to you, Rob?
It doesn't seem like it.
My subs won't move either, so I think you have to position them in before Defcon 1, and then they become stationary, maybe?
No, I was never able to move them. I tried to move them all throughout the game.
That's rough.
I was able to move them in the tutorial. Yeah, that's too bad.
Oh no! Oh no!
What?
Nothing.
What?
I really should have checked what the range of an MRBM was. Oh, this sucks.
Oh,
I detected.
No.
Oh shit.
Oh no.
I fucked up.
Oh, poor Europe.
See, I can't see any of this because I don't have any radars. I feel like I should fly some fighters over there to see what's happening.
Blue is about to completely nuke continental Europe. It's bad. It's ugly.
Oh, my bombers haven't gone yet. I'm just patiently waiting. Oh, that's bad.
So anyway, should we just get rid of all the nukes? I think is where we left off.
Yeah. Yeah, we should. I mean, I know it's hard, but here's the thing. It's crazy. Like, just imagine that Xi Jinping went nuts and murdered like 20 million Americans, right? What is actually the moral case for slaughtering people in Beijing and Shanghai who didn't get to vote in that decision? It's actually the darkest part about my novel. Oh, Matthew, is that London or Paris?
That
was
London, and now Manchester.
Oh, Manchester.
Oh, come on, man.
Manchester and London. I'm sorry. I left this stuff on missile defense, and it's real ugly over here.
Yeah, I've left my stuff on missile defense, but right. I was saying, like, what's the moral case? In my book, I had North Korea nuke the United States. And I didn't have the United States nuke North Korea back because we could win the war without using nuclear weapons. And I would say about 90% of the one-star reviews I got were angry men who were pissed that we didn't murder innocent civilians in Pyongyang.
In a book.
to avenge the people who died in the United States. It was like, wait, we're supposed to be liberating them, and it was like, no, I wanted them dead. And it's like, that's a fucked up moral world. Like I gave you the win against North Korea. Like you toppled Kim, you removed him from power, he's dead, and like they wanted like a bunch of dead kids in Pyongyang because it wasn't fair. Speaking of dead kids, by the way, sorry about that, Rob.
Yeah, what got hit?
Well, it's about to.
Wait, hold on. Oh, fuck. Oh, fuck. Oh, no.
I think I noticed a gap in your radar coverage.
Oh, no. Come on, hit it. God damn
I
it.
think that's Beijing. I think that's going to be Beijing.
Player 2, 36 points. Everyone else, 0. Matthew, -25.
Well,
-25. That's what happens when you lose London and Manchester and God knows what else.
Are you launching ICBMs at me, Matthew?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh God, Moscow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I just got some points.
You did get some points.
I'm on the board.
You got some points. Oh, but I got some points back.
Oh, that's bad. That's not a good city
I got
to
some
lose.
points back.
Oh, man.
This really stinks. I don't have my
crushed.
MRBMs, though.
The MRBMs are key at the end.
I had a very specific plan for these, and it won't let me move them. Yeah, well.
So, but I think one of the arguments for, like, it's not necessarily that it needs to be this balance of, like, bloodletting, right? But the idea is the threat has to be carried through. Like, if you let the first city get nuked, you gotta nuke something in response. So the logic of it is that the scales do have to be balanced, or the threat isn't credible, and there is no disincentive to like start launching nukes, right?
Right. That's exactly right. It's just, is the threat like ever really credible? I mean, at some point, it's the threat of mass murder, and it's only credible in a kind of really insane and psychopathic way. So, like, one of my kind of... It's one of the reasons I like the French. The French, it's really easy. They don't engage in, like, the same level of, like, absurd intellectual theatrics that we do. For the French, it's really easy because they don't want what happened at the beginning of World War II to happen again. So, like, that's their, we will nuke you. It's utterly credible. It's extremely simple. In the U.S., we have to... Yeah,
wait, hold on. I'm not familiar with this. So they have a distinctive nuclear posture?
Yeah. Well, it's not just that it's a distinctive nuclear posture. It's more like a distinctive intellectual style. Like, in America, we have these really complex debates. Hey, that better not be me, Rob.
Oh, man. New players just destroying Europe.
Are those my bombers? Or no, that's... Wait, who's... No, I don't think my bombers have hit anything yet, have they?
You've hit something. That's one of the fun things about the end of this game, is it gets so chaotic, you barely even know what's happening.
Yeah, that's true.
Real quick, before you dive into like French nuclear, their posture, what is what's their exact setup? Is it just silos? What do they have?
It's they got rid of the silos. It's aircraft delivered nuclear weapons and submarines with missiles.
Okay. A dyad, if you will.
Yes. And one thing I don't love about this game is it's like very early 60s where your submarines are, they have one warhead and they're medium range, and so they have to get really close. I love the USD-5. It is an ICBM. It is a magnificent missile. You can hit pretty much any place on the Earth from any place on the Earth, given the right warhead loading. It's a hell of a missile. But in the US, we go through these like elaborate things of like, well, we're going to use nuclear weapons against China if China uses against Japan. And then, people point out that would make sense, and you'd be trading, Tacoma for Tokyo. And we do this like really elaborate intellectual kind of wargaming thing. but it's more like we're trying to convince ourselves this stuff is credible. And I would
Hey.
argue it's not. What happened?
The green player's doing something. It looks like they've got a bunch of subs off the coast of Blue, and they're about to launch into it.
Wish I could move my fleet.
I think
Really
I think you have to move the ships in the first 3 Defcons, and then they're kind of locked into place after that, I think.
I swear to God, I tried to move the ships during the first 3 Defcons, and it would not let me do it. I was never able to move my ships. That's okay. I'm going to find other ways to murder people.
I think Blue has this locked up unless something dramatic happens here in this late stage.
Well, why am I not... Can't I switch my... Here, you know what? Screw Blue. I just got to switch my self to ICBM mode and see what's...
Hold on. Yep, we're good. I found it. Sorry, our producer was just letting me know that apparently I've been coming through people's left channel only, and I just clicked the box that should have fixed that. So apologies for those of you who've been hearing me just coming in from the side.
That's okay. I'm turning off some of my air defenses, and I've decided that I'm tired of Blue's shitty attitude about the world. Since my air defenses don't appear to be defending me, I'm gonna go ahead and...
Yeah, you know what? Blue does need a good nuking.
Yeah, let's...
They've been nothing but problems.
I don't want to be negative here, but
But it is nuclear war.
I'm gonna put a couple of megatons on Cairo and see how many improvements I can do.
Oh no. Okay, that's not great. Okay, that's annoying. That might not be good.
I noticed none of us went counterforce and tried to bust silos.
Well, I did.
Should have. Well, you got to hit them with 3 nukes to bust them, right?
Is that right?
I think so.
I mean, in the
takes,
game?
In the game, yeah, it takes 3 direct hits from a nuke to bust a silo, if I recall correctly.
That's right-ish. It takes multiple... I mean, not to listen to the Air Force talk. They love running down their own nuclear weapons. I've never seen an organization that's more committed to implying that they're incompetent in order to get more money.
It's just, I mean, I have a lot of opinions.
They are.
I have a lot of opinions about the independent Air Force in general.
Yeah.
It's weird. Although
Dragon,
it's actually one of my favorite games is and U.S. congresspeople used to do this in like the 80s, and it never gets old. It always works. When like the head of Stratcom is just like running down the U.S. nuclear deterrent and how we need more money and how everybody else has all this cool stuff, ask them if they'd switch. Would you switch with the Russians? They can never bear to do it. They're always like, well, no, we have the greatest force in the world and our people are wonderful. And it's like, well, I thought you said we were falling behind.
This actually touches on one of the like right now. There's so you have people who are saying like if anything the world should be denuclearizing, in particularly the United States and Russia, because like our arsenals are disproportionately large.
Yeah.
By thousands. Is like here's a good example. How many nukes does France have, Jeffrey?
A couple hundred.
China has, they think, around 300-ish, right?
Yeah, I think those are slightly exaggerated, but call it a couple hundred too.
Well, in the 300 number I see is usually from people that are bullish on Chinese nukes too.
Yeah. I might get up to 300 at some point. Boy, Rob, I hope that's aimed at player 2 and not me. I'm just saying, I detected one of your launches.
Whereas America and Russia combined have thousands of nukes.
Yeah, we've got, call it 1,700 on day-to-day alert out of a total force about 3,500. So, yeah, it's big.
Oh, it's quite the difference. But as Rob was saying, like we're going through this period right now where we have a lot of people calling for modernization, calling for was it Britain? I talked to you about this, Jeffrey. Britain wants more new nukes. You're seeing like people edging up to a buildup of nuclear weapons that I haven't seen in my lifetime. Basically, it's all been drawdown the entire time I've been alive. In the past 10 years, things have gotten a little squirrely.
Yeah, people are. Well, I think we had this idea that like I think at the end of the Cold War, we had this idea that this was just the way things were going to be. And there were a lot of people who really weren't on board with reducing the number of nuclear weapons, who just like had to like shut up, but they didn't go away. And now they have the upper hand because, you know, the world's shitty. And so like these people are coming out of the woodwork. That's what I think's happening anyway.
They just bided their time, essentially.
Yeah, you know, there are like a lot of people who, you know, like you could, I don't want to drag any colleagues, but you can see a lot of people whose attitudes about nuclear weapons have changed fairly dramatically over the years.
To become more bullish on them?
Well, they were like in favor of them, and then they were against them, and now they're in favor of them again. And so you have to ask, like, are you just that like agile in responding to the threat environment, or, you know, was there some social pressure that caused you to moderate your views?
What are the social pressures? Like, so I mean, we're sort of alluding
to
a
bit of revenge.
Yeah, I mean, we're sort of alluding to the fact that there are a lot of interests in pouring a lot of money into nuclear expansion, nuclear modernization. How does that translate into the like policy think tank world, or does it? I am curious. Like in the field, are there incentives for people to, you think, maybe mitigate or change their opinions based on those incentives?
So not so much competitively within the field, right? If you're a Democrat, there are Democratic think tanks, and if you're a Republican, there are Republican think tanks. But if you are like interested in nuclear weapons, the number of academic jobs and the amount of money available in think tanks, which are, you know, funded really through charitable grants, is a drop in the bucket compared to the amount of money lavished on, you know, folks who want to build new stuff. And like the example I give is, like, we are all in our field completely freaking out because the MacArthur Foundation is leaving the funding space for nuclear weapons. And, you know, this is like devastating because MacArthur is like a third of everyone's funding. But we're talking about like millions of dollars exiting the field.
Yeah.
You know, like our entire field wouldn't buy you an R&D study on a new ICBM. Like, it just, the scale is completely different. And so, and like, I'm not one of these people like, oh, it's the armament manufacturers, they make the war. It's like, no, they're private companies, they have a view, that's fine. But just as a practical matter, you know, if you want a nice career in defense, pick the other side.
So,
you know, you'll have a much nicer house.
One of the let's talk about denuclearization a little bit, because to a degree, sometimes I think this is there's a resemblance to where the gun control debate sometimes ends up, which is these things exist in the world, you can't make them unexist, and there are so many incentives for actors to misstate their intentions or misstate what they're doing in the process of denuclearization, that just injects more uncertainty into the system and could make the world more dangerous. It could open up space for like bad actors to like engage in nuclear conflict. Does that hold water? Do you think there are reasons to be cautious about denuclearization? Do you think it's viable?
Do I think it's viable? Look, I mean, if we're talking about disarmament, I am someone who thinks, I actually do believe that deterrence works, right? It's not that I don't think deterrence functions. It's I don't think it functions as well and reliably as everyone believes. And I'm pretty convinced that it's a bargain that someday we will regret. So I do think that you have to think about how you transition to a world where you don't base your security on the idea that nothing will ever go wrong. Because, that's like ultimately kind of a goofy thing to think. Because, stuff will eventually go wrong. But if you're like, how do you do that? You do it in like little baby steps. So like, yeah, I want to get rid of all the nuclear weapons, but you know what I would really like to do first is we have a treaty banning nuclear testing, right? Which is essentially designed to make it harder, not impossible, harder to develop new nuclear weapons. And, the U.S. signed it in 1996 and the Senate has refused to ratify the treaty. And so, like, just stuff like that. For 50 years, we've talked about a treaty banning the production of fissile material. So just like, don't make any more. You have plenty. Just stop making more, and then like we'll figure out how to get rid of what we've done. Just all that stuff. Oh, perm. I lost perm.
And
a lot of jokes about perm.
And a lot of
Who
the
used
existing
perm? Was that you, Matthew?
perm. Look, there's nukes flying. Who can say?
You don't even know?
Who
A
can
million
say?
and a half people died in perm.
Look, I'm still mourning the 10
And you're
million
like, I don't know
dead
if that was me.
in London. Okay, I pushed a button. Some stuff happened. It's fine.
Our ICBMs can't reload, right?
And I've still got most of mine. Once your missiles are shot, they are shot, and that's over. I think, Mr. Rob Zacny, I might be able to pull out a late-stage victory of this game.
You do.
We can tell it's
do.
not going to be me. I've gotten just punished.
Who has ICBMs left?
Not me. I've got everything flying at player 2.
Yeah, no,
Which
I mean,
guy?
I've definitely shot off most of mine. And
I was
they didn't seem to do
outraged.
shit. Like, I have
Yeah,
basically squandered my
point
arsenal
there.
against the blue wall. And that's
Yeah,
pissing me off.
why did the blue wall, why are they so insulated from attack? Was it just like excellent radar placement?
They have a radar in Madagascar that I didn't detect. So they started shooting at everything I was shooting in South Africa. So like they were just like, to our point earlier, they saw the launches very early.
I would like to say I have an objection. I am staring at a Mercator map.
Yeah.
And if I am Russia and I'm going to nuke the crap out of South Africa, I might go over the South Pole.
So
Probably. I
would investigate my options for large throwaway delivery vehicles.
That missile did hit Khartoum.
Oh, no. There's a big green fleet. Oh, no.
Oh, we completely forgot about green. Oh, no.
Yeah, because Green didn't nuke anybody. South America. It's like...
Green is basically role-playing the beach, I think, in this scenario.
Did you see they remade Mosquito Coast, by the way?
No, how could you remake that movie?
Right?
It's an Apple TV vehicle. It's going to be a television show starring Justin Theroux.
What?
No. It's very tied. Yeah, I mean, that story is so extremely tied to that era that I think it would be hard to pull off, but we'll see.
Yeah, I do not understand the culture of remakes. I actively enjoy the period quality of old movies.
You're not going to get, you're not going to get an argument from me. Like, yes, correct.
The guy with the hairy lion avatar, yeah.
Old movies are fine. There's nothing wrong with them.
No, I've
We will live long enough for them to remake Doctor Strangelove. I hope everyone on this
No.
call is prepared for that.
No,
It's
we
gonna
will
happen.
not, because
It'll happen.
I will check out. I will be like, later, motherfuckers.
who is the
No,
peer?
I want no
no,
part of
God! Oh my God! Sacha Baron Cohen will be
Oh yeah,
heading
he'll be
up that production. Yeah.
He'll be playing 3 different parts. Yeah, that'll be absolutely.
No.
And he'll direct.
No.
Yeah.
Rob, I think you're going to pull out a victory here.
I'm worried about Green.
Well, but Green hasn't killed. You think Green's just going to come up with a bunch of SLBMs at the end? And...
So
They haven't launched anything.
Green is
All they have
trying
to do is
to get at me. It's like the zombie at the window. Like their entire fleet is steaming across the ocean right now to come wreck me.
so their fleet can move, is what you're saying.
Turns out,
I'm really angry about this not moving fleet thing. Because I was going to devastate Green with my SLBMs. That was my plan.
it was a good plan.
I had a very specific plan, and it failed. Well, I mean, command and control in nuclear war. Do you expect it to go perfectly? No. No.
Yeah, Rob, you're
That's not
creeping
how
up the board.
You're doing more than creeping up.
Yeah.
Oh, good. I got some more ICBMs going to blue.
Well, I mean,
I'm trying to help you out here.
I'm just nervous.
You see those? Can you see them? Can you
like
see
I
them,
have
Rob,
much
with your
left.
radars?
Where?
You should be able to see with that radar you've got in your rock. You ought to be able to see the ICBM I'm flying at.
Oh, but see, I think it's targeted at me. Like my missiles are engaging. So even if it's flying at blue, I'm shooting it down.
Oh my gosh, that is so interesting. Okay, I hate Mercator maps.
Yeah, I think with a better map projection, this game would be transformed. That was the problem with my nuclear strategy. Is I was using a fucked up map projection. Hey, wait, there's an orange ICBM coming over the pole.
I don't know what you're talking about. Listen, you don't need to worry about any orange anything. It's okay. It's fine. It's fine.
Oh,
Peace-loving orange. I think I have, given that I can't launch my SSBNs, I think I'm done. I think I'm spent.
Yeah, if you're out of stuff,
so
I've still got a couple silos here.
Well, then that opens up a little space to ask about something else, which is that we've all been talking about policy as a matter of like intent, where like these things are sort of planned out and thought about, etc. But one of the things that makes like disarmament advocates nervous is that just because the system hasn't had, like, you said at the outset, one bad day in the system is like potentially world ending. And the question is, are the systems in place around the world to effectively like control these nuclear arsenals, and are there changes underway as part of this modernization that increase the risk of like unintended or ill-considered exchange?
We're in the midst of a giant freaking arms race. Yes, Matthew. What are you launching at?
Don't worry about it. Example, we recently deployed a new tactical submarine-launched nuclear weapon.
Is that
right?
Gault bomber over my?
I don't listen. It's just things are going to happen. Okay.
Can I use my fighters to intercept this Gault bomber? Where is it going?
Probably nothing to do with. You're just airspace at this point. You're just irradiated airspace. It's okay. It seems unfair to me, but okay. Just embrace Europe. It's okay. So, sorry. Talking about this new arms race.
Yes.
We recently deployed under the Trump administration this new quote-unquote low-yield tactical nuclear weapon.
Yes,
right?
Which was much bigger than the thing that blew up in Beirut, but yes, low yield.
Yeah.
Tiny nuke.
Well, look, low yield compared to, an ICBM.
Other nukes. I know, but I find it funny that we call them low yield nukes, and people are like, oh, that thing in Beirut, that was a nuke. Like, no, that's like a mini version of a mini version of a mini version of a nuke.
Yeah, I don't
Like,
think
mini nukes are like so much freaking bigger than that, but okay. Yeah.
sometimes I think it's hard for people to parse. The brain kind of rejects it, like the devastating power of these things, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's totally true.
But to this question about like effective control and governance of these systems, like, is it getting worse out there? Is it getting scarier than it was in the 80s?
Yeah, well, it's replicating the experience of the 80s, which, you know, I wrote an article on this for Foreign Affairs. It makes me super fucking unpopular. But the U.S. is really committed to defenses. And the consequence of our commitment to defenses, which to Russia and China and even North Korea looks like an effort to try to have an offensive capability to disarm them, is that the Russians and the Chinese, and even to some extent the North Koreans, are investing really heavily in a variety of different systems, all designed to defeat defenses. So anti-satellite weapons to shoot down any space-based sensors, obviously multiple warheads to overwhelm the defenses. The Russians are really into huge ICBMs that can fly over the South Pole to come from behind the defenses. The Russians have that stupid nuclear-powered cruise missile. They have a nuclear-powered torpedo.
Ostensibly, they have.
Everybody's doing gliders. Yeah.
They have not produced. On the Russia front, I would say they have not adequately produced proof that these things exist in a working form. Correct for most of them.
I think lots of these things maybe don't work, but the point is, it's like happy day in the Russian and Chinese defense industries, where the counterpart is in the U.S. There's this great Bloom County cartoon that I only remember and I've never been able to find again, but I know it must exist, where there are proposals for SDI, the Strategic Defense Initiative, the 80s missile defense effort.
Yeah.
And their plan is just to ring the earth in $100 bills. And they just like ask for crates of money, and then like it shows up. I think that is also that now happening in Russia and China, where you just show up and you're like, I have a plan to defeat missile defenses. And they're like, great. How many crates of money would you like? And that's what an arms race is like. None of this stuff is a good idea. Most of this stuff won't work, but we're all investing shit tons of money in crazy stuff.
Well, it's a great grift too, because
incredible grift.
If things go bad, who's gonna punish you, right? Like,
that's right. If things go bad, you just say, we were almost there. We just need more money.
Yeah. So, provided that you survive whatever the going bad was, right? And to put this in perspective, like how bizarre and heated this is getting on the international stage, a few years ago, when Putin was addressing, I think, the Duma, and explaining like what the new Russian nuclear weapons, when he showed off what the cruise missile could do, the nuclear-powered cruise missile, which is something that we had toyed around with, I think, in the 50s, and decided that it leaked radiation everywhere and we shouldn't do it.
Yeah. Not just leak; it's an open nuclear reactor, so it spews.
Spewing through the air, spewing radiation. Awful weapon. Putin announced this thing and showed a 3D render of one of these missiles going into the air and coming down and hitting a very precise part of Florida.
Yeah.
Where perhaps someone's winter White House was. Like the rhetoric is big. In Russia especially. I know less about what's going on in China in that space.
Well, everybody knows less about what's going on in China, but look, most of these things won't work. I don't, when I say that like the nuclear-powered cruise missile is real, I don't want that to be confused with, and therefore will be a cost-effective investment that enhances Russian security, because it's not, right? But
they've already had one accident. They believe it was one of these things tied to an accident there, right?
I'm pointing at me. We're the ones who figured it out.
Okay.
Yeah, they were pulling one of the airframes with the reactor unit up off the ocean floor when something went really, really wrong and exploded and killed a bunch of people. And we were able to guess it was the nuclear-powered cruise missile using AIS data. There was the Russians closed the ocean around the recovery effort, but we saw in a satellite photograph taken by Planet a big ship, and then we looked and we were able, it left its AIS transponder on, so it pinged that it was a nuclear fuel carrier that we had seen involved in other recovery efforts of airframes of nuclear-powered cruise missiles. So that we are the people with Reuters, with John Landay, the first people to stick our neck out and say that we thought it was a recovery effort of a nuclear-powered cruise missile.
Can you talk a little bit about, because I think this is pretty fascinating, and it's something that, again, like even 2 years ago...
I will talk about it if you freaking nuke blue.
I'm nuking blue! I've got so many missiles going to... All right, largely going to green. There's a lot of going to green, too.
Oh,
So I'm covering my bases.
All right, sorry, go ahead.
You know, I'm nuking all over the place. Here, let me launch...
I'm like out, I can't move, I got nothing left.
I can turn speed, too. I'm gonna go up to 5x.
Ooh, I have 2 new ICBMs.
I'm gonna... Yes, I hear you, Fade.
Matthew?
Yes,
go
sir.
up to 5 speed? To 1 tick up, basically. For the game speed.
Got it. Got it. Sorry, my horrid cat is screeching in the background.
That cat rules.
It does. I love her so much. But she just sounds like that all the time. Yes, baby.
Oh, you blew up one of my bases. That's why I have fewer stuff.
I don't know what you're... Listen.
I didn't accuse you. Are you saying you're not guilty of the thing I didn't accuse you of?
Incriminating.
Yeah.
Just curious.
Yeah.
Just curious. Just trying to get that all straightened out.
Go on Twitter and look at satellite data. Please. Another 1.2 million dead in Russia. I don't know how that keeps happening. Troublesome. Troublesome indeed. So yeah, explain, if you can, a little bit about like the work you do in terms of like open source intelligence and how that works. Because I also think that, and I think a really good example, something kind of like a starting off point, it's when the run up to the Iraq War, right? There was all of this satellite data and all these things that we were being shown that no one could double check. We live in a world now where double checking by independent people can happen and pretty rapidly, right? And you do some of that.
I do. I'm staring at this green fleet off my coast. But yeah, so Iraq was really important to me because I was a graduate student at the time and it was super frustrating. Like it drives me crazy. People's like, everyone believed Iraq had, a nuclear weapons program. And it's like, no, we didn't. But if you were a person who believed Iraq didn't have a nuclear weapons program, you were not allowed to participate in the debate. And the consequence of that is then once people fuck it up, there's no accountability because they can just say, well, we don't see any interviews with people who doubted it. It's like, because you wouldn't let us on TV. And, fair enough. At the time I was a graduate student, why would you let me on TV? But it really struck me at the moment how powerless civil society was to question intelligence claims. And so, everything I've done since has been about, can we understand the state of the spread of nuclear weapons in the world using the same techniques of the intelligence community, but using entirely shareable open information? So they have spy satellites, we have commercial satellites. They do all kinds of signals intelligence. We look at, ships AIS data, flight AIS data and squawks. We try to look at cell phone records. We try to do everything on an open and unclassified basis that they do on a classified basis. And they have more toys. But I like to think that people actually now care, when somebody in the intelligence community says X is well, it's really not the IC, but when some politician says the intelligence is X, things got very quiet. People are super interested in knowing whether you can confirm that with open information. Boy, I don't like how quiet it got. That was the creepiest thing, was the break between the music.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm waiting
Should
on.
check the scoreboard, y'all.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Rob,
yeah.
you're
We're getting close here.
you're killing it. Although, maybe maybe you should not be drawing attention to that fact.
You shouldn't be proud to win this game. No.
If only my MRBMs were within reach.
And then how does this apply now to, I think the closer analog is Iran's, the current analog, and something that your podcast is about, which is excellent, is Iran's nuclear weapons program.
Yeah. The Deal.
Called The Deal on Apple and iTunes and wherever other else fine podcasts are found.
Yeah. It's really hard with Iran because they really did have a nuclear weapons program, and they really might build one like North Korea did. So it's not like Iraq, right, where it's totally fictitious. But, the way it is like Iraq is we do have this idea that we can just, some people have this idea that we can just coerce and just make them do what we say, which is...
And the refusal to be coerced is itself an act of aggression.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So, I don't know. I have a throwaway comment I always make, which I think is true. It's if you like a nuclear-armed North Korea, you're going to love walking away from the Iran nuclear deal. They have all the same capabilities North Koreans have and more. And while I think that there was a political decision that they made not to pursue a nuclear weapon and to try something different, I don't know how many times you can walk away from the deal, how many nuclear scientists you can kill, how many leading Iranian, generals you can kill before that balance shifts.
Yeah.
What will happen is we will push them into building a nuclear weapon, and then the people who are responsible for that will say, well, they always planned to do it, so it's not my fault.
In fact, they're vindicated for having been the realist all along.
Absolutely.
By having shredded every deal and every compromise. Yeah.
Totally. I mean, I run into this with North Korea all the time where, I'm someone now who believes North Korea will never give up its nuclear weapons. But it's just funny because, people are like, so that proves it was nonsense to negotiate with them. It's like, no. Right? It proves that refusing to negotiate with them didn't work, and now we're fucked. So, learn the lessons and maybe try a little harder.
All right, I'm about...
So says I, anyway.
I'm just gonna just dump the rest of these nukes onto people I'm closest to. Sorry, Russia. Oh, your Navy's actually doing something.
No, I'm not even in the lead. I'm so far down.
Yeah, but dead bodies are more points. That's the perverse incentive structure that this game has built. I'm sorry.
Yeah, at some point you just have to nuke people just to be nuking.
And I can get those submarines over to Rob, but it's going to take a real long time. And you're right here, defenseless primarily.
Fair enough. And if I could move my fleet, which I had up there to do anti-submarine warfare, I would. But
left clicking on it and then right clicking somewhere. Is that how you?
Yeah, I've got a Mac, but it worked perfectly with the tutorial.
Looks like they're moving now.
You see my fleet moving?
Yeah. Your
I don't see my
battleships
fleet moving.
Up there above Leningrad.
They haven't moved.
They're moving right now. They're chasing me. They're killing my subs.
That's weird. I don't see them at all moving.
Oh, that's strange.
They're yellow.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
On my screen, they're hanging out above Svalbard.
Well, they just came down for a little bit from Svalbard and totally took out my subs as soon as they surfaced.
Are you sure those are mine?
Oh no, my subs.
Yeah, pretty sure you're yellow, right?
I am, but on my screen, they are not. They are hanging out above Svalbard. And I can't tell them to do anything. They won't do anything.
Oh god, here comes green. I'm spent now pretty much, Rob. If you want to kick up the speed again.
Yeah.
That's up to you. I know you're actually doing something.
No.
Yeah, I'm basically done. I can't move anything.
I'm
out of bombers
to destroy the planet.
Okay.
I'm just slowly losing points. I'm slipping below. I mean, I can fly some fighters around just so I can see what the hell's going on, but...
Uh-oh, the Gus is loose.
I mean, that'll give me some, like,
Come on,
visibility,
hit it.
but...
Hit it. Fuck.
Do you think, something I think about a lot lately is how we make sure that, maybe not that people that are, the next generation understands these weapons and how important it is to understand these weapons and the kind of choices that they'll be inheriting, the world that they'll be inheriting.
Yeah.
Because I remember you telling me once that that you surveyed people, and a lot of people thought nuclear weapons stopped after the Cold War, like nobody had them anymore.
It was crazy. Yeah, we did this. We spent a lot of George Soros's money. The Open Society Institute funded it, and it was both a telephone survey followed by some focus groups. And the focus groups were just what was totally freaking insane, where people have really strong opinions about nuclear weapons and they have no idea what they're talking about. Right. So people generally thought that after the Cold War, the United States and Soviet Union had gotten rid of their nuclear weapons. And in particular, people thought that was a bad thing because they thought that, like, they actually thought it was the Soviet Union giving up its nuclear weapons that resulted in terrorists getting a hold of them because the Soviet Union did not properly dispose of them.
Well, that was the plot of True Lies.
I mean, just that, like, it's all wrong, right? Like, they didn't give any up, and terrorists didn't get hold of nuclear weapons. And if they had, it would not have been the weapons that were dismantled. No, none of that is right. And so, like, we had these focus groups where people were like, disarmament sounds really good, but we disarmed after the Cold War, and that's how the terrorists got all the nuclear weapons. So we shouldn't do that. And so then we, like, tried to test, like, factual responses, like, no, in fact, the United States actually took all of the highly enriched uranium from the Soviet Union it was downblended and then used in U.S. nuclear reactors, and like 1 out of every 10 light bulbs is powered by a former Soviet nuclear weapon. And people are like, that's not true. We all know they ended up in the hands of terrorists. And it's like, okay, I fucking give up. At that point, I was like, maybe I should go work for Boeing. I don't know.
What do we do to fight against that? Or is it even possible to do?
Well, I mean, the depressing answer that study came up with was that, oh, hi, Green. That's not a good day for me.
I think it's worse for me.
The depressing Hamburg here. Nothing was lost.
Yikes. It's just everybody's points are at my expense. That's terrible. The result of the study was to say, don't make things high profile and partisan. Obama shouldn't give the speech in Prague where he talks about a world without nuclear weapons. Just don't do that. Because people don't really care. They care about their partisan lean more than anything else. So if you ask someone, are you for disarmament? They say yes. And then you're like, well, Barack Obama's for disarmament. And if they were a Republican, they would be like, wait, did I say I was for it? I meant to say I was against it. Like, they don't care about nuclear weapons as much as they care about other stuff. So as much as you could keep it out of the news, you were better off. Which is like a depressing statement on democracy, right?
Jeffrey, will you hit number 5 or get the so we can get the speed? There we go. Yeah.
All right. I think I'm gonna lose. I think Green's gonna eke this out.
Yeah, I think so. It's one of the interesting, like, you just have to, they were in a perfect position, we all forgot about them, and then at the end all they had to do, they had that last strike, right?
For the record, I did not forget about them. I was not able to devastate them with my submarine force.
Fair enough.
He says bitterly, with real anger and disappointment.
Hold on.
I think you may pull it out.
It's a difference
Rob,
of 6
I think
points.
you're gonna win.
And I kept them from scoring off of me pretty handedly. One of the nice things about Europe is you can get the missile defense coverage actually pretty good.
Yeah, you were like all tight and packed in.
Mm-hmm. I only lost. Oh no.
Well,
I lost a
somebody,
lot.
maybe it was you, did a really nice job of taking out my.
I stayed in missile defense mode for the beginning of the game because I just wanted to be able to knock out ICBMs and not worry about it, right?
So, but hold on. If just talking about nuclear policy and like, hey, the state of the world from the standpoint of nuclear arms, if that immediately like polarizes and such,
Yep.
what's the path to achieve a like more stable world with regard to nuclear arms? Like, if it can't be resolved democratically, how do you create a world that's slightly less likely to plunge into nuclear chaos?
Victory to Rob Zacny.
First, congratulations, you won.
40.8 million survivors. Nice.
Wow, look at that. Now, this is so fucked up.
I had the fewest survivors.
I have the second most survivors. No, third most. No.
Should have killed more people.
That's yeah.
I see. This is precisely.
This is the calculation.
This is precisely the problem. Is, arguably, according to Keith Payne and Colin Gray, I won. I achieved my political goals at a relatively low cost. But boy, Rob, you murdered a shit ton of people.
Almost 70 million people, Rob.
So the thing that happened was that
wow, you're not even an off-brand Stalin. Stalin's an off-brand Rob.
Well, Stalin didn't get access to the nuke until after the war was over. I think if he managed to get ahead on that, we would have seen some shit.
Right.
But yeah, I think my fleet completely went by green. They just sailed right past each other, and so it took all game. But my subs just pulled up to the coast of like Mexico and South America.
I see them now.
And just launched in. And that was it. Like, there was no missile interception. There was nothing. It was just basically like nothing but hits. So that was the game. And that's kind of Defcon, which is it's got a good little loop. It's got a good little early game, and then it just escalates to what we saw, which was just like pure chaos of the missiles flying past each other. I'm curious.
I enjoyed that tremendously.
It's it's a minor classic, and it's a really it's a really good approach to the subject. But I did want to revisit that last question of so in a world where the democratic process isn't going to resolve this because of partisan polarization, what's the path forward to a less scary world for nuclear weapons?
It's baby steps. It's not we're going to ban the bomb tomorrow. It is all the unglamorous little work of banning testing, trying to control the number, which the way we do it now, we refuse to talk about defenses, but limiting the number of offenses and defenses together. It really is about getting a handle on the situation and trying to slow the arms race we're going into, and then eventually getting to the point again where we're trying to bring things down. But it's not going to be big. And that's kind of the problem we have right now, is there are a lot of people who funded these issues early on, kind of in the early Obama era, when people talked about big ideas like we are going to ban nuclear weapons. And all those people are so disappointed that a decade on, the answer is we didn't ban nuclear weapons. I mean, there's a UN treaty, but it's not going anywhere. And those people are giving up and pulling out, which is a real shame, because it's the gritty, unsexy, boring, step-by-step work that's going to make the world a safer place.
All right. Well, I think we will leave it there. Jeffrey, thank you so much for swinging by and teaching us about
oh my God,
nuclear posture and nuclear theory, while I taught you about the art of nuclear war.
You killed me.
So I think we will leave it there for today.
Well done, Mr. Zacny. You monster.
I'm, getting my clock cleaned by the AI all those times really did prepare me for this moment.
I would just like to say that there are 51 million Russians and other people living in Russia who disagree that we lost.
This disparity is pretty massive, is the thing. Like, arguably, you won pretty decisively.
I lost 49 million. You lost 59 million.
Actually,
and you
blue
win, which is
and green.
everything about this game.
So many survivors, and yet it's the victory goes to the greatest monster.
Yep.
And that's nuclear war, baby. So don't try it at home. Don't try it in the real world. That's our lesson to you today. Jeffrey, thank you so much for swinging by. Matthew, thank you for arranging this. And let's do it again sometime.
Absolutely. I'm going to look at this ICBM because I know, for one thing, you can launch across the poles. The map is a globe. So
You had me at globe.
Complete game changer. All right. Take care, guys.